And with regard to the inscription idea, and again, this is speculation on my part, but the sarcophagus in the king's chamber, as far as anything that I've read so far, nobody has ever seen or was ever aware of a body ever being put in it. In fact, it's quite problematic to think that that would be the case, because you couldn't get it through the shaft. The shafts that lead up to it were too small, too narrow to make it possible for a sarcophagus to ever, after a king died, a pharaoh, to be loaded into it. So that begs the question, then what is this? Now, there's some really compelling research that this might have been some kind of big energy generator of some sort. Free energy, Tesla type of thing. Really compelling stuff on that you can check out online. But I came to think that perhaps this was the ancient library that had all the pre-flood knowledge put into it, namely the 365 books that Enoch was supposed to have written. We have the first Enoch is really the only one that I give much credibility to as any kind of authority. Second and third Enoch seem to have much later Gnostic origin to them. But first Enoch, most of the people that I've read, as far as their commentaries on it, seem to agree that it very likely could be an authentic writing of Enoch, predating the flood. And so I thought, this would be one amazing library of information, not only in the structure itself, because when you go through and look at the various measurements and, our structures and things like that, it really does testify to our Creator and our Earth. And what's interesting is, for years, I was aware of this information. I've always been fascinated by the Great Pyramid, that it fits measurements of the globe. But as I started to consider, and you heard me say the word consider, the idea of the theory, you heard me say the word theory, of flat Earth, I began to see and wonder if some of these measurements might still work. And I've been pleasantly surprised so far, actually, that some of them actually do. Now, I don't know enough about the subject to say that all of them do. I've only been looking into this myself for barely 2 months now, about a month and a half. But regardless, it definitely does have measurements within it that testify to creation. And you also have this whole idea of a king and a queen. And of course, we are the bride of Christ. And so that's very compelling. Right there, you have a descending entrance that you enter here on a downward path. Well, I mean, since the fall of Adam, we've been on a downward path. I mean, we entered this world on a downward path, but you have to make a decision at some point in your life. And if you choose right, Danielson, you get to go up. If you choose wrong, well, you go down to the descending passageway that leads to what they even refer to as the bottomless pit. So, that's rather compelling. And so the sarcophagus would make a very good place to deposit ancient texts. And so, again, it's speculation, but I began to wonder if that might have been the location of where all of Enoch's texts were put. Now, others would say that it made it onto the ark, and fair enough. That's a reasonable conclusion as well. So who knows? I mean, we're all speculating at this point, even the Egyptologists, everybody's speculating. Kent Hovind also pointed out that the inner dimensions of the sarcophagus fit the outer dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was a wow moment for me as well. I remember he came through town back in the probably late 80s, early 90s, and taught at our church his whole creation series. And kind of in passing, he made reference to that, but I never forgot it. And in fact, people can go online and do a YouTube search and probably find him talking about that. But that was an intriguing possibility as well. So, and it gets even more intriguing as you start looking into the structures and measurements. Now, again, when I wrote this back in December, it was very much on the globe page. So I was taking cues from that. This is what I was talking about earlier, the Giza Plateau being at the center of the geographical landmass of the planet. With this idea of creation being started right here, without getting too crude, if we were to take the idea of Mother Earth, now, no, I am not a New Age person who believes in Mother Earth, so don't be looking for a sound bite, people. Might want to grab one and say, Skiba believes in the Mother Earth. No, I don't. But there are a lot of people who do, who put forth that idea. Well, then this area is rather intriguing because you have sort of the womb right here of water and the pubic area of a female with the birth canal right here. Yeah, I just found it intriguing, that, well, I mean, just it kind of looks that way,
Right.
And if you scale the Great Pyramid up, again, this is on the globe, on the equator, what's left over the top of the Earth is the same as the radius of the moon. And what I think it was Hovind, I think it was Kent Hovind, or somebody like him, made note a while back of the fact that the New Jerusalem fits inside of the dimensions of the moon. Now, whether now at that time, I think it was Kent Hovind that was saying that. But I mean, you can clearly see that's the case here. If you put a square in there, if you're a cube guy, it works. But it also works as a pyramid. And Patrick Heron was the first person I had ever read that had put forward the idea that the New Jerusalem could be in the shape of a pyramid. Doug Hamp, however, was the one that pushed me over the edge and got me to actually believe, I think, in fact, that it is. Doug firmly believes that the New Jerusalem is in the shape of a pyramid. And if you do if you look at the description of the New Jerusalem, the dimensions, it works for a cube or a pyramid. It works either way. So what's intriguing about the idea of the Great Pyramid as a representation of the New Jerusalem, though, is it was known, and this is what the Egyptologists will tell you, that it was known to have had 140,000, interesting number, of highly polished limestone on its surface. And it was said to, it is still estimated to be comprised of about 2.3 million stones. Well, that's rather interesting because we have the 144,000 of Scripture, and we also have most scholars agreeing that approximately 2 million people came out of Egypt at the time of the Exodus. So, I mean, these numbers are just, I mean, is it all coincidence or is there something to it? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just looking at the evidence going, hey, this is what's out there, and I'm putting it forward for people to consider for themselves and then come to your own conclusion.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting that echo thing again.
I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. No, it's gone now.
It's not coming through on my end, so.
Huh. Yeah, I at times when it's gone now. At times when I talk, I'll hear myself like about. I'm not sure. It's not happening now though. It seems to be only when you're talking. When I talk, I'll give it a second before I before I say whatever thing I'm going to say. But yeah. But yeah, that is really interesting, and I've gone back and forth on the whole cube pyramid thing too, and now, I mean, I haven't done. I'm terrible at math, so I haven't done all the equations or anything like that. I have to rely on those who have done them for me, so I don't have to deal with it. But yeah, I think that's really interesting that it works for both a pyramid and a cube. And then there's, then I've also, just because I'm into this kind of stuff, I've thought about the idea maybe it's a hypercube or a hyperpyramid and there's extra dimensionality to it. But again, even if that were the case, the measurements that were given in the Bible would just be the physical three-dimensional slice that would be, that would take, so it would work out either way. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the dimensions, and forgive me if I'm getting it wrong, but I think it was 1,500 miles by 1,500 by 1,500. If that's the case, whether cube or pyramid, that looks really strange on a globe.
Yeah,
very strange. It works out no problem on a flat Earth. And so this is what's so intriguing, because I had this, like, God was really putting it on me to study this out in like depth. I mean, I was like obsessed with this right before Sukkot last year. And, if you go through those blogs, you'll see they're rather lengthy, and that's just what I put on paper or put on the internet. I said, I've got more kind of in notes and stuff scrambled all over the place, but, and then right after that, I come into this whole flat Earth thing. So I don't know what it all means at this point. I'm just searching it out. But when, and if you go on that website originally that I talked about, BabylonizingBooks.com, tytconference.html. There's an embedded video here. This is Patrick Heron's take on it. So it's like a 27-minute video, 26 minute video. So it gives his take on it. So you can see what he had to say. He's got some really good stuff there.